Hello and welcome to ETCIO presents ETStudios Digital Compass Season 3 powered by Zscaler. I have with me today Rohit Kilam, who is the CTO at HDFC Life, and Riyaz Tambe, who is the Senior Director Solution Consulting at Zscaler India. And we will be discussing securing the hybrid, multi-cloud and edge environments in the financial services sector. And we will also explore the challenges in maintaining a robust security posture while enabling unified visibility, governance, and advanced threat detection across both the legacy and the modern workloads. So welcome Rohit to ETStudios. I want to start off by asking you the fact that we are seeing a lot of Indian insurance companies moving to hybrid and multi-cloud strategies in order to modernize their legacy systems. So how do you ensure a robust security posture while also maintaining, a unified governance, unified visibility? So how do you maintain a balance between the two?
So I think multi-cloud is inevitable, first of all. Like you've got to pick up the best of the breeds and you have to pick up the best. And you obviously cannot lay all your eggs in a single basket. Having said that, there are systems, I wouldn't call them legacy, I would rather call them core systems. Core systems built on a different set of technologies, maybe not amenable to cloud technologies as such, which are bit slightly implemented a few longer years back. But the core systems have to integrate well with the existing systems of on cloud and at the same time maintain a security posture which is very critical for us. To do this, there are multiple solutions. You could typically, as the situation or as your architecture has evolved, look at systems and build multiple tools to manage, one for your data center, maybe one for your disaster recovery side, one for your branch, and one for your cloud A, cloud B, cloud C, and that goes on, right? But to actually effectively manage all this, what we typically need is a multi-cloud connector. Multi-cloud connector, you can think of it like a fabric layer in between, and this fabric layer talks to my now this fabric layer would talk to my data center, would talk to my will talk to my cloud A, cloud B, cloud C, all seamlessly, right? And at the same time, help me give one view of the security posture that we are looking at. It doesn't mean I'm replacing firewalls, but yes, I'm creating redundancies. I'm creating a structure in which there is no single point of failure, as well as ensuring that there's more and more resiliency built into the systems going forward.
So, Riyaz, the hybrid environment is a reality, and especially when we are looking at the financial services sector, they're increasingly adding modern cloud workloads. Now, what happens is that when it comes to maintaining both the legacy systems as well as the modern workloads, cloud workloads, how do you ensure that you are able to manage, secure both the environments simultaneously? So, is there any way that uh, Zscaler is able to do that without adding further to the complexity?
Sure, that's a good question. If you look at the types of security landscape that we're talking about, right? The threat landscape is evolving at a rapid pace, irrespective of where workloads sit now. It could be on-prem, it could be cloud, and in fact, with the adoption of cloud coming in, it's becoming even more difficult in a distributed environment for organizations to secure their workloads. Now, at Zscaler, what we've been doing is we've been pioneering the cause of zero trust framework, which is basically making sure that anything to anything when it connects, when two entities connect, it could be users to connect into workloads or even workloads communicating with workloads. Because if you look at modern day applications, there's a lot of communication that happens between workloads. So in that principle, how do we make sure that zero trust can come in and help organizations secure? The fundamentals of zero trust are very simple, right? First is make sure that you don't depend on the network to identify who the workload is or what the workload is. The principle is authentication first. Based on authentication, check for anything which is malicious, and then based on posture checks, allow communication to happen. These are simple zero trust principles that we work on. Now, that what makes it difficult is workloads which probably could be multi-cloud, as Rohit just mentioned, or workloads that can be sitting in an on-prem environment. The fundamentals of zero trust remain the same. The idea is that's what we're doing. We are more focused on making sure that we can have this communication across workloads for even employees, or for communication that happen across these workloads, irrespective of what clouds. Making sure that the principle of zero trust can be extended to every nook and corner of where the workload is sitting. So that's what we are doing to make sure that we can secure financial services specifically from from the modern day types of threats that we're seeing in the industry today.
So, Rohit, you mentioned about these legacy systems being as core systems, and definitely these were systems that were built like 20, 30 years back, even.
Maybe longer back.
Okay, yes, longer back. But a lot of these digital offerings that are now coming from the banks, these are cloud native. And these are going to be the ones that are going to accelerate at a fast pace. All of these digital offerings, and therefore the cloud native architecture of your organization. So if you really look at managing the both, so there's a dual challenge. One is, of course, security. But how do you ensure this robust security, threat detection, and all other aspects of security without adding to the operational overheads? Because as you're scaling the digital offerings in the digital systems, the cost also increases. So how do you ensure the both security and operational overheads work?
Yeah, so from there are systems which are core, which we built long time back. We are looking at multiple things to manage the operational overloads as we speak about. One is obviously you're looking to hollowing the core and looking at the core systems only as system of record, not as the core system of transaction. One, we extract as much as possible of the rule engines out of these core systems and present it into an meta layer around it, right? Third, we look at creating APIs out of these core systems. Once you are able to create APIs out of the core systems, you're able to expose them as services to outer digital applications, which can scale up, down as per the business requirements, as per the cloud native architectures. And lastly, extremely important is keeping a very secure ID and access management. And that is the crux of from a security standpoint. If you see 90% of attacks which happen, specifically in ransomware, happens first at the ID level, ID and access management level. So you'll have to keep ID and access management foolproof, completely safe, air gapped across. So that is where we need to move on to.
So we are seeing a lot of insurance companies as well overall financial services sector adopting edge computing for real-time customer services. We're talking of new services, new digital offering coming in. So for instance, real-time customer services is one example of that. And then integrity containerized workloads for faster operations. So how does a company like Zscaler provide microsegmentation and runtime protection for workloads in such a environment?
So the fundamental thing is, what are we trying to secure here, right? Irrespective of what type of computing that we use, the main thing is data, right? We want to make sure that we secure data in the best possible manner. What we are more focused on, while we are focused on making sure that we can protect organizations or enterprises, especially financial services, from the modern day threats, our focus is also to make sure that we protect data from a customer's point of view or from an organization's point of view. The challenge is when data is moving across the organization, which is when applications are modernized and they move into a cloud environment, a lot of automation takes in, right? I mean, say for example, you mentioned about containerized workloads. When some of these things are being used, there are these are very elastic in nature. They can be spun up or spun down at a very fast pace, which means it's important to have controls in place which allows the organizations to have complete control over the data and how it moves within their environment. Hence, there are certain strategies that can be used, like for example, microsegmentation. The whole idea of microsegmentation is to make sure that when two workloads are communicating, irrespective of where they are from a cloud point of view, there are right controls in place, and not just controls, it's visibility also. In the world of security, the most important thing is visibility. Without visibility, we cannot define the right guardrails around how things move in your environment. So our focus is, with the solution that we have, to provide that visibility of how traffic is moving within their environment, to give them more visibility of how their data is moving within a multi-cloud environment, and then making sure that the right controls are in place so that policies can be implemented to safeguard, making sure that data does not go into wrong hands.
And Rohit, when talking of edge computing, and we are seeing a lot of financial services organizations now exploring edge computing, I would rather say they are already adopting edge computing in a big way. For instance, in the insurance sector, it will be a great value add when it comes to faster claim validation, according codification and sets. Now, how do you approach, for instance, in ensuring the workload integrity to ensure that the security is taken care of at each.
Edge computing presents its own challenges, right? One, the threat, the operational technology, OT as it's called, operational technology, is a completely different landscape than an information technology. The OT specific space from a edge computing standpoint has to ensure that my edge computers are my edge devices are completely secure at at the device level itself. Second, the data at movement is completely secure, and then data at rest wherever it lies is completely secure. Right? I'll give you an example. We have any new vehicles that you buy now has more than 2 dozen microcontrollers based there. They have M2M SIMs, that is machine to machine SIMs already placed, and multiple of them. Right? Your car is a connected vehicle. It's already talking continuously to backend. Right? If you have to use this information across for faster claim validation, for example, accidental insurers, you have to ensure that the data first is available. One. Number two, it is secure, right? Because a lot of times you've seen injection attacks from the edge as well. We have to secure them as well. And thirdly, for faster claim processing, there is a lot of machine learning and artificial intelligence which is used, the algorithms which are used to quickly understand what has happened and remediate that, or to for claim processing underwrite that very quickly. All that has to happen at a seamless level between multiple mediums. It is an edge device, which could be a microcontroller moving to an M2M SIM with a provider, moving the data onto a central cloud or a central data center, then moving that into an algorithm which does the underwriting and then reporting across with it. So there are so many hops around that as.
And once we start talking of edge computing, we are talking about a very highly distributed environment, which adds to the complexity. So anything you want to for that?
So from a distributed environment standpoint, I think what is critical, I spoke about encryption, I spoke about data, obviously segmenting it at each segment level is extremely important. Your ID access management is extremely important. Your application governance is extreme. How do you look at your application? How do you govern your existing applications which are doing this? That is extremely important. How are you doing your in edge devices? Are you doing your OTAs, over the air updates, or the how do you do your OTAs, right? Or how how well are you patching your edge devices regularly, because that is also a critical activity from a security standpoint. So that those are the challenges that are there, and mostly, there are compromises being done. We have seen commercial uses of experimental uh, 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 chips, like a we've looked at Raspberry Pi being used commercially, right? And people are not cognizant of the fact that a Raspberry Pi or any similar chip is just an experimental learning chip. It is not to be used because it doesn't have the security wherewithals along with it, right? So need to look at holistically at a device chip level, at the communication level and data level, and as well as the endpoint where we are using that data. All the legs have to be clearly segmented and protected.
Yes, if we talk of the financial services sector, and we have to talk about appliance and regulatory framework. So, when it comes to financial services sector, the RBI, we are IRTA. Also, look at overall from a compliance perspective, how are you ensuring that the organizations, your customers, are able to meet their compliance obligations at the same time? They'll give them the confidence in workload performance and security.
Absolutely. That's a great question. If you see compliances, especially when it comes from regulators, right? The whole purpose of this is to make sure that customers' data, which is, the customers like us who are banking with, with these financial organizations, our data is secure. And that's the main reason why regulators have a lot of these compliances. The whole idea is, again, how do we have the right controls in place? Before the controls, the right visibility in place to make sure that we know where our data is and have the right controls around it so that data uh, does not get leaked out or nothing wrong happens. Why? Because if something wrong happens, there are actually users who can lose money out of it, right? So we've been working with a lot of financial organizations across the country. We've understood these regulations very well, and we very well understand what are the controls that are required in place, irrespective of where the workloads are sitting. As you rightly mentioned, and Rose also mentioned, right? We are living in a very highly distributed environment. So workloads and data is everywhere. The data could be sitting in a user's machine. The data could be transiting over the web. The data could be sitting in a SaaS environment. The data could be sitting in a cloud environment, and these could be like multi-cloud environments. The idea is, again, using the principles of zero trust, making sure that we have the right visibility and guardrails around it, not just in terms of control of what's coming in, what's going out from a traffic point of view, but also having visibility of how data is, where critical data is. And that's why we use a lot of, AI, nowadays to make sure that we can identify what these assets are. And then once you know where these assets are, you can define the right controls over it. So we at Zscaler are very focused on making sure that we help organizations comply to the regulations which they have to adhere to from a regulator's point of view. And we've been very closely working with a lot of financial organizations around.
And especially now with the DBTPI coming into
Absolutely.
place, I think there's even more, let's say, pressure on the organizations to ensure the PI would be guys safe. And I think that also requires both for these organizations to go for solutions that enable them to have that confidence.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And especially in a cloud environment, I say, right, it becomes even more complicated. The reason being, it's very agile. These environments are very agile. You can spin up, workloads and spin down workloads or rather make them elastic at a very fast pace, mainly because it's very automated in nature. Then how do we keep a track of data in such an environment, right? That's the key thing. So you've got to have systems in place, or you've got to have solutions in place, which first of all provide you visibility of how data is managed within your environment, how it's moved, and then having the right controls. Hence the whole strategy. And I call it a strategy. Why? Because it's important to, as I mentioned, right? Once we know where the data is, then you can define the microsegmentation policy that we spoke about earlier, so that we control how communication happens, and then also making sure that you have data protection policies in place so that data only is moving based on policies that you define. So that's how we can, it also, again, as I said, it adheres to, and that's how financial organizations are managing the compliances and helping users like us of the which are the civilians of the country to manage the data.
Thank you so much, Rohit and Riyaz. It was wonderful talking to you, and a lot of good insights in terms of data protection, data security, not only from the, when it comes to the cloud environment, also when it comes to the edge environment. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. But thank you.
Pleasure.